Hello everyone. Today we will start our second unit, that is thermodynamics 1. The name is given thermodynamics 1, which will include several laws of thermodynamics. It will define the internal energy concept and the details about specific heat of gas. This is the content for today's lecture. Then we will continue to see the other laws and different concepts related to these first law and zeroth law. Okay. Until now, we have studied already the kinetic theory of matter, kinetic theory of gases. We have seen van der Waal equation of state. Then we have seen the deviation. We have seen the reduced equation of state. We have already structured the base of thermodynamics. Okay. Now we will go to the specific topics that is related to thermodynamics, right? So today's lecture objective is to understand the laws of thermodynamics. The outcome of the lecture, after you attend this lecture, you will be able to learn about the zeroth law of thermodynamics, first point. Then you will understand, you will grasp the knowledge of first law of thermodynamics, and finally you will learn about the internal energy and specific heat of gases. To get these objectives, to achieve these objectives and make you learn a lot of things, the content of today's lecture is divided into thermodynamic system and its types. The second topic is related to zeroth law of thermodynamics. We will understand it by some example also. Then the third topic is related to the understanding of concept of work and energy. And after understanding the concepts of work and energy, we will move to first law of thermodynamics. We will define it, and we will define several terms including in this law. And finally, the lecture will conclude with the definition of a specific heat. First, we will define a general definition of a specific heat, which is valid for solids and liquids. But there is some special definition or specific terms for the specific heat when we talk about gases. So this will be our final topic for today's lecture. Okay. Now, as I told you in my previous lectures also, these are some reference books which you can consider for further study if you have something unclear. But anyway, you can ask anything, any question, anytime to me whenever you feel some confusion or if you don't understand anything. Okay, so let us first start with some definitions, because we are going to study zeroth law and first law of thermodynamics. We need to understand some definitions, basic definitions. We will use a lot of terms, technical terms, to establish these laws. Okay, so the first term is, what is thermodynamic system? So this thermodynamic system can be defined as a definite quantity of matter that is bounded by some closed surface. Okay, so there we can divide this system into three different type of system. The first one is homogeneous system, when the system is completely uniform throughout its part. So that means we cannot differentiate one part of the system to the other part of system by its properties. Then it is called homogeneous system. If we understand by the example are mixture of gases. If we mix two different gases, so we cannot differentiate by our eyes or by the normal physical properties. So that mixture of gases can be considered as homogeneous system. Or if we mix some liquids or some solution which are not distinguishable, they are defined as homogeneous system. Now let us come to second system, that is heterogeneous system. So when a system is called heterogeneous, if the system is a mixture of two or more phases which are separated from each other by definite boundary surface, then this system is known as heterogeneous system. The example for this system is if we take some liquid, for example water, and then we take some vapor, if we heat it and there is some vapor generation. We can differentiate the liquid and vapor part very nicely. So this case is known as heterogeneous system. Or if we mix two immiscible liquids which can be differentiated from each other. For example, if we mix some high density liquid and low density liquid, we can separate it out immediately, right? So these mixture is known as heterogeneous system. Apart from these two, homogeneous and heterogeneous system, there is another term, because now we have defined system. Now there is, apart from the system, anything else surrounding this is known as surroundings. So anything outside the system can be defined as surrounding, which can exchange energy with the system and has a direct influence on the behavior of system. If we can transfer the energy from the outside part to the system, this is known as surroundings. Okay. Now, what are the classes of thermodynamic system? So, on the basis of different exchanges, on the basis of exchanges of different properties or different things, it can be classified into three systems. First is open system, where the system can exchange matter and energy with the surrounding. That system is known as open system. For example, in the houses, we use air compression in the refrigerator, in our air conditioner. So air compression is a good example of open system, where air enters at lower pressure and leave the compressor at higher pressure. That means air is exchanging from the system to the surrounding. So air is kind of matter, and because it is transferring from low pressure to high pressure, that means energy is also getting changed. So this system is known as open system. Second class is closed system. These systems are defined as a system which can exchange only energy, but the matter remains constant. This system is known as closed system. The example for this is normal gas, which is enclosed in a cylinder. If we allow it to expand, when give some heat energy. If we heat the cylinder, what will happen? Gas will expand, and if the gas will expand, piston will be moving outwards. That means it is exchanging the energy. The energy is changing, but the material of the gas is remaining inside the cylinder still. That means the matter is in the constant state. The quantity of matter remains constant, right? So this system is known as closed system. The third one is isolated system, where neither the energy is allowed to exchange nor the matter is allowed to exchange. That system is known as isolated system. It is thermally insulated and has no communication of heat or work with the surroundings. Okay, so these are the three systems which are classified on the basis of exchange of energy and matter. Now, if we have already understood the system, surroundings, and the classes of system, we are ready to learn about the laws of thermodynamics. So, actually, the first law is in fact second law, because earlier this zeroth law was not considered as a law of thermodynamics, but at a later stage it was realized that this is quite important to understand the thermal equilibrium. In that case, it was termed as zeroth law, because the first law was already came into the picture. So that's why this law is known as zeroth law of thermodynamics. What this law is stated: if the two systems are each in thermal equilibrium with a third one, then these both systems will also be in thermal equilibrium with each other. If you look at the picture here, if we consider that system B is in thermal equilibrium with system A, and system C is also in thermal equilibrium with system A, then they must be in thermal equilibrium. B and C system should also be in thermal equilibrium. This is known as zeroth law of thermodynamics. in this law, we define some terms. For example, what is heat? Heat is transfer of energy due to temperature difference. Okay, then heat flows, but the objects do not have heat. Okay, heat flows due to thermal contact. The two objects or two systems, when they are in thermal contact, then only heat can flow. And if they are at different temperatures, energy will be transferred until they both will be at the same temperature, or we can call it they both are in thermal equilibrium. If we understand this by an example, so for that example, let us consider two different cups of boiling water, right? If we take some thermometer to measure the temperature, and if we put this thermometer into first cup, then what will happen? The temperature reading of the thermometer will start increasing, right? And it will increase up to 100 degree, because the temperature of boiling water is 100 degree. Now if we remove this thermometer, or before removing, we can consider when it reaches to 100 degree, that means that thermometer is in equilibrium with this cup, boiling water cup. Now if we remove this thermometer and put it into the second cup, and if it continue reading 100 degree, if the reading does not change, that means that thermometer is in thermal equilibrium with the second cup also. And because this thermometer is in thermal equilibrium with the first cup and second cup, that means these two cups will also be in the equilibrium. Okay, this is the example, and using the logic of zeroth law of thermodynamics, we can conclude that these two separate cups of boiling water are in thermal equilibrium with each other. Okay, this is all about zeroth law of thermodynamics. Although this law is very easy to understand, very easy to define, but that is very important to understand various laws of thermodynamics, various concepts of thermodynamics. Okay, now we will define how the system works, or how the work is done on the system. Does it depend on the path? Does it depend independent from the path? Let us see from this topic. The work is actually a path dependent function. How to define that? How to understand that? For that, let us consider that a system is taken from state A to state C. Now the coordinates for system A is P1 in the pressure, and V1 is the volume. Now it is taking from this state to second state. The coordinate of that state is given by pressure P2 and volume V2. Now if we go from A to C, there are three different possible ways. One is from A to C along this curve, AC curve directly. The second route is if we go from A to B and B to C, then also we will reach to C. And the third one is if we go from A to D and D to C, that is also the possible way to reach from one state to second state. Now we will understand how the work is done on the system or is done by the system. Now if we follow the curve AC directly, then what is happening here? The pressure is continuously decreasing from P1 to P2. You can see the change in pressure continuously. Okay, and the pressure is reducing, but at the same time, what is happening? Volume is increasing. So these two things are happening together. Okay, so how to calculate the work done by the system? It can be calculated by W1 equals to integration of V1 to V2, because the volume is changing from V1 to V2, and the work can be defined as pressure, that should be the from here to here change, that is defined as P, into dV is the volume difference. We are just using integration to calculate this value. So integration within the limits of V1 to V2 into of P into dV, that is given the work. That is equivalent, if we see on the image, that is equivalent to the area. Which one? Because this is covering the area under the curve. So ACFE, this is the total work done if we see on the PV graph. Okay, this is the work done for the first route. If we consider the second route, what is happening here, you can look at this from point A to D. What is happening? Pressure is remaining constant, but the volume is continuously changing from V1 to V2. Now when we move from B to C, what is happening? Volume is constant at V2 and the pressure is reducing from P1 to P2. So the total work done in this case will be the area covered by this total curve. What will be the area? ABFE. So this is the area of total work done and can be expressed by the mathematical term, that is P1 on this side into this one. So that is V2 minus V1. That is given by W2, that is P1 into V2 minus V1 and equals to area ABFE. Now if we consider the third route, that is ADC. When it is going from A to D, what is happening? Pressure is changing, but the volume is remaining constant at V1. The second thing is from D to C, the pressure is remaining constant, but volume is changing from V1 to V2. So the total work done will be the area under the curve. So the curve is this way. So the area under the curve will be DCFE. And it will be given by, because the pressure is here, so P2 into V2 minus V1. So that is the mathematical term, and if we look at the area is given by this one. So you can see in all the cases the area are different. In the first case the area was ACEFE, in the second case it was ABFE, and the third case was DCEF. So all the areas are different from each other, right? That means the total work done depending on different path is totally different. That means W1 is not equal to W2, that is not equal to W3. That means the work done by the system or on the system does not depend on the path of the process. Okay, so this is the definition of work. This is the property of the work done on the system or by the system. Now we will define the second term, that is internal energy. What is internal energy? Actually, the total energy content of any system is defined as its internal energy. And what are the components of these internal energy? It is actually the sum of three different forms of energy. The first one is kinetic energy, that is caused by translational, vibrational and rotational motion of molecules. All of them depend on the temperature. These are the function of the temperature. The second type of energy is potential energy, which is caused by the intermolecular force between the molecules. And on what factor it is depending? It is depending on the separation between two molecules or intermolecular distance of the gas, right? So this is the potential energy. And third form of the energy is the energy of nuclei and electrons in that particular molecule, right? So these are the energies which actually cannot be calculated exactly. So because the particles are very small and the number of particles or number of molecules is quite large. The second thing, we cannot calculate the energy, exact energy of any electron or nuclei of the system. So that means in practice it is really impossible to measure the exact value. So what we do is we always track the change in internal energy and according to that we can define the state of any system. Okay, this is the internal energy. Now how to define this internal energy? For that, let us assume that one system goes from state 1 to state 2, and in this process we supply the amount of heat as Q. We are assuming that Q amount of heat is supplied to that system, and by supplying that heat from going from state 1 to state 2, the total work done by the system is W, because we are supplying the heat, so the work will be done by the system. Okay, so in this process, let us assume that total work done is represented by W. Then what will be the change in its internal energy? That will be, let us define U2 minus U1 is equal to, we have supplied Q energy and the work was done W. So Q minus W will be equal to the change in internal energy. Okay, now there is another factor which is important to remember. The internal energy we have already seen when we were studying the kinetic theory of gases. We have already defined that internal energy for ideal gas is only a function of temperature, whereas it is a function of temperature and volume both for real gases case. Okay, now let us move to the first law of thermodynamics. Since we have already seen how to define the work done, how to define the internal energy, and we know the heat is supplied as Q. Now let us assume that if a certain amount of heat that is defined by Q is supplied to a system and the external work done is W, when it is going from state 1 to state 2. The amount of heat is equal to the sum of the increase in internal energy and the total external work done by the system. So in mathematical form, we can write Q is equal to change in internal energy, that is given by U2 minus U1 plus W. This is very similar what we have defined here to define internal energy. We have just rearranged, and that is actually termed as first law of thermodynamics. If we consider a very small change in the state of system, then the law can be expressed in the differential form, and that can be written as del Q equals to du plus del W. Here we have put different sign for differential. Why we have done so? It is done because del Q and del W are not the perfect differential, whereas du is the perfect differential. Why it is so? Because we have already seen that U is a function of state of the system, that is defined by temperature or volume or pressure, right? So that's why du is the perfect differential, while the other two quantities are not the perfect differentials. Two more points to remember here. Whenever we will use this first law of thermodynamics in our calculations, in our applications, we have to remember 2 points. The first one is Q is always positive when heat is given to the system, and it will be considered as negative if it is taken from the system, right? In the same way, W is positive when the work is done by the system and negative when the work is done on the system, right? So these 2 points you have to remember when you apply this first law of thermodynamics for the numerical problems, right? Now the next topic is to define specific heat of gas. First we will define a general definition of specific heat. Before going to the specific heat, first we need to understand what is heat capacity. So actually each material or we can say different materials, they have different capacities to absorb the heat to produce a change in temperature for a given mass. Okay, if we consider that the mass of material is given by m, which absorb q amount of heat, then the temperature rise is delta T. We can write the heat capacity of that particular mass as heat capacity equals to Q upon delta T. Okay, now this is the heat capacity. If we take it as per unit mass, then it will be changed to specific heat capacity. So the specific heat capacity is represented by C and can be defined heat capacity per unit mass. So we can just change specific heat C equals to heat capacity upon mass. Heat capacity we have already seen. So the mathematical term of C equals to Q upon M into delta T. Thus, the specific heat of a material can be defined as the amount of heat required to raise the temperature of unit mass. If we put m equals to 1 and delta T also 1, then the specific heat will be equals to the required heat to raise the temperature by 1 degree of per unit mass. Okay, so we can define on the basis of this formula. Now this is the general definition for any material, particularly for solids or liquids. But when it comes to the gas, the gas is a slightly different case, because the gases are compressible matter. The specific heat of gas can be different according to the state of compressibility. Now let us assume one example. If gas is allowed to compress, what will happen? The temperature will rise, but we are not supplying any heat. That means Q will be 0. We are just compressing the gas. The temperature, what will happen? It will increase according to basic principles of thermodynamics, right? If the temperature is rising without heat supplying, what will happen? We have already defined C equals to Q upon M into delta T. And here we are not supplying any heat. That means Q is 0. So the specific heat will become 0. Apart from this, if we allow any gas to expand freely, what will happen? There will be no change, because we are not applying any pressure. That means there will be no change in temperature, and that means delta T will be 0. And if we put in the same equation, what will happen? C equals to Q upon M into delta T. If we put 0 here in the denominator, the term will become infinite. So the specific heat of gas can be varied between 0 to infinite. So to define a definite value of a specific heat, we have to fix some parameters, and according to that, a specific heat of a gas can be defined by considering two conditions. One is defined as specific heat at constant pressure, that is denoted by Cp, and the second one is by keeping constant volume, the specific heat of gas is defined by Cv. Okay, there are two different terms, Cp and Cv. So how to define that? We can state it as the specific heat at constant pressure is defined as the amount of heat required to raise the temperature of unit mass by 1 degree. From the definition, the general definition was C equals to Q upon M into delta T. If we put M as 1, delta T as 1, then C will be equals to Q. So that's what we have defined. The specific heat of a gas at constant pressure is defined as the heat required for the increase in temperature by 1 degree of unit mass. Okay, while the pressure remains constant. So that is the same way we can write mathematically as Cp equals to del Q upon delta T at constant pressure. Similarly, we can define the specific heat at constant volume. It is defined as the amount of heat required to raise the temperature of unit mass of gas by 1 degree when the volume is kept constant. So Cv can be defined as del Q upon del T at constant volume. Okay, now we have understood two values. We will see which one is more. We can compare the values of Cp and Cp. So the final statement is Cp is always greater than Cv. Why it is so, we will understand according to following. Now, as we know, when we supply any heat to the gas and allow this gas to expand at constant pressure, this is the condition for Cp. We are keeping the pressure constant and we are supplying heat and allowing it to expand. So it will use in two different things. One is it will raise the temperature of gas, because we are allowing this at constant pressure. So pressure is remaining constant. That means the temperature will rise. Okay. That heat will be used to work against the external pressure, because we are keeping the pressure of system constant. That means we are applying external pressure. So there will be some work done against the external pressure. That means the heat will be used to different two things, and delta Q will be equals to the sum of du plus del W, or we can write du plus PdV. This is the first case for CP. So CP is using in two different parameters. But now if we talk about constant volume, what will happen? The total work done will be 0, because we know the work done is given by P into dV. Now we are putting the volume constant, so this term will be 0. That means the entire heat which is supplied to the system will be used to internal energy, to change the internal energy, or what will happen, to change the temperature of system. That means Cp is being used for two things, but Cv is being used for the one thing. Now to raise of these systems by 1 degree, we have to supply more heat when we are keeping the pressure constant. Here we need to supply less energy, because this is using only for the change in temperature. That means this value we have to keep high. That means more heat is required for the increase in temperature of gas by 1 degree at constant pressure than at constant value, and that's why Cp is greater than Cv. Okay, this is all about today's lecture. Now we will see some questions, and we will solve these questions. We will answer these questions. This is kind of quiz based on MCQs, and to understand what we have learned today from the lecture. So the first question of today's quiz is, the example of heterogeneous system is, the option A is mixture of gases, second is liquid solution, C is liquid and vapor, and D is none of above. So how we define the heterogeneous system? Where we can distinguish two different phases by some boundary condition. So according to here, let us see on the options, this is the mixture of gases, and it is impossible to separate two different gases from the mixture. That means this is not a heterogeneous system, this is homogeneous system. Again, if we talk about liquid solution cannot be separated. The two components cannot be separated out easily, right? So that means this liquid solution is not a type of heterogeneous system. Now let us come to liquid and vapor. We can really separate it out. Liquid we can observe directly from our eyes, vapor we can just somewhere else. So that combination is known as heterogeneous system. So the right answer for this question will be liquid and vapor is the example of heterogeneous system. The second question is a system which can exchange only energy with the surroundings is called a open system. B option is closed system, C is isolated system, and D is homogeneous system. So if you recall our lecture, we have defined it in three different systems. One is open, closed, and isolated. So that means D is not the right answer for sure. Now we have to judge among these three. So what was the open system? Where the system can exchange both matter and energy. That means this is not the right answer for this question. The other option is isolated system. Actually, for isolated system does not have any exchange of energy or matter. There is no communication of energy and work between the system and surroundings. So that means the remaining part is closed system, and that is defined as a system where the exchange of energy takes place between the system and surroundings. So the right answer is B for this question. The third question is, the work done is path dependent, path independent, sometime dependent, sometime independent, or none of above. So according to the definition, we have already seen that if we go from different path, the work done is totally different. That means it is path dependent. Work done is always path dependent. According to path, the total work will be different. So that means it is path dependent. Right answer is A for this question. The next question is, internal energy of ideal gas is a function of temperature, pressure, temperature and volume, temperature and pressure. What is the right answer? As we have seen, not only in this unit but in our last lectures also, we have seen that ideal gas does not have any potential energy because there is no interaction between the molecules, right? So that means there is only kinetic energy left associated with the gas molecules, and the kinetic energy is a function of temperature only. That means the internal energy of ideal gas is a function of temperature only, and the right answer of this question will be A. The next question is, the first law of thermodynamics states del Q equals to du minus del W equals to dQ plus del Q equals to del W minus du, and del Q equals to du plus del W. So what will be the right answer? We have already seen that the heat supplied to the system is equal to the change of energy and the work done. So that means the right answer is D. This heat supplied to the system is the sum of internal energy change and the work done on the system. This is the right answer. So the next question is, specific heat at constant pressure is defined as del Q upon del T at P, del Q upon del V at P, del U upon del T at P, del U upon del V at constant P. What is the right answer? This is the change of heat or the amount of heat required for the unit change of temperature per unit mass, that, and the condition is constant pressure. So del Q upon del T will be the right answer. This is answer A. The next question is, a diatomic gas molecule has translational, rotational and vibrational degrees of freedom, then the ratio Cp upon Cv is equals to 1.29, 1.33, 1.4 or 1.67, that we need to calculate on the basis of formula which we have given, gamma equals to 1 plus f by 2. So the answer for that is 1.29. That is answer A. The next question is again related to the specific heat at constant pressure and constant volume. The ratio of two specific heats, Cp upon Cv of a diatomic gas, is given by 1.67, 1.40, 1 or 2. So the right answer for this is B, 1.40. These two questions you have to calculate by yourself. Here I have given only the answers, but you need to calculate it by yourself. Now the next question is, which is the correct answer? Cp is greater than Cv, Cp is less than Cv, Cp is equals to Cv, and none of the above. We have, in our last topic, we have seen that the Cp is used for the two things. One is internal energy change and the temperature change. Internal energy change and the total work done. And the Cv is used only for the change in internal energy. That means for the change of 1 degree of both systems, we need to supply more heat to this case. That means Cp is always greater than Cv. So the right answer is A. The last question of today's quiz is, the work done by a system is given by P1 to P2 integration VdP, integration limits T1 to T2 B into dt, or V1 to V2 PdV, or T1 to T2 T dt. So we have seen when we were deriving the work done on according to different paths, we have seen the work done is equals to V1 to V2 P into dV. So the right answer is C. Okay, this is all about today's lecture. So today we have already seen about many definitions related to work, related to energy. We have understood the system and surroundings. We have seen zeroth law and first law of the thermodynamics, and finally we have understood the relation of the specific heat of gas at different condition, at different pressure and different volume. And we have seen that the specific heat at constant pressure is always greater than specific heat at constant volume. So this is all about today's lecture. I hope you have already understood about all the topics. If you have any doubt, you can ask me the question later on by sending message or by contacting me by any other means. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your patience.